Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Bryce Simon and I are doing our final 2025 NBA mock draft of the season. We're going to go through all 30 first-round picks and dive deep into everything that NBA teams should be looking at. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? Listen, I love doing mock drafts. I love doing big boards. I love the draft season, but I'm ready for the real thing. I'm excited for tonight because I think we're doing a predictive mock. And so we're going to talk about what we think teams are going to do and all of that. But I'm just ready to analyze what they actually do on Wednesday and Thursday, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm in the same boat. This is the time of year that gets really frustrating to me because I do have to try and come up and figure out what's going on intel wise and all this, try and figure out what's going on. It's the time of year where I don't want to, people don't necessarily lie to me often. They will just obfuscate. You know what I mean? They will purposely say, yeah, sure. This is an outcome that could happen. This is also an outcome that could happen. The other thing is that I think that there are precious few people league-wide who do know what's going to happen on draft night is the other thing that gets, doesn't get said enough here. There is some intel that gets floated around league-wide that sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. You have to kind of dig through the crevices and find everything. And I am fine with that, but I would much rather just try and talk about strategy and talk through kind of what's going on, I think.
Yep.
What actually is happening.
Yep. And I've learned that I realize that part of being a part of this podcast and doing what I do, what we do, you at a completely different level, is you have to do predictive things and you have to do mock drafts and mock off seasons and things like that. But I've found in my purest joy, it is just analyzing things that happen, not predicting game 7 of the NBA finals, but analyzing game 7 of the NBA finals, not predicting what's going to happen in the NBA draft, but analyzing what happens in the NBA draft. And again, I realize that it is ask of me, it is ask of us and the people in our business to do all of it. I'm understand that. I've come to realize I love the analyzing more than I love the predicting.
Yeah. I prefer, I'm good with predictive stuff. I think it's fun. I think it's great. Sure. I would just rather talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
And I am good with talking about, so I like the idea of team building and I like the idea of talking through different outcomes for sure.
Yeah.
It's more, I think that particularly the draft stuff annoys me. So I love the draft. I do. I genuinely love these players. I love my job so much. Shout out to the folks at The Athletic. Shout out to the folks, who subscribe to this channel that make it, so worthwhile for me to be able to do it. But it's the actual, trying to predict the unpredictable of the draft is really just wild to me.
No. So that's what I have really enjoyed the offseason previews, but it's because I don't think over there we predict things. We just we go down this avenue and then we go in reverse and then okay, what if we took a detour here and oh, nope, let's reverse out. Let's go back a couple more steps. Let's go this way. And I think that's what I enjoy is just kind of laying out all of the potential things that could happen here. So I've really enjoyed those. I know we have 2 more to finish off that series. After this live, actually.
That we will be recording, and those will be going up tomorrow. So I'm really excited to do that. But yeah, this is going to be great. Okay. Mock draft time.
Yep.
I start these every time asking what you think of this draft. Now that we are officially under 2 days away from the draft, what is your thought on how strong this draft is.
Love number one, love number two. I stand in the same place. We've had this conversation over and over and over again about trading up, not trading up. Does it make sense? Does it not? All of that, tier breaks. I think what I am fascinated to see, because I wonder if there is not a team that just has a different tier, that has a solid, this is the number 3 guy, no question, no matter what, whether it's Ace, whether it's VJ, whether it's Kon Knueppel, whether it's Common. Shoot, maybe it's Jeremiah Fears. I don't know. But I just really wonder if number 3 isn't in play for a team that just really trusts their scouting and has really identified a third player in this draft that they believe in more than others, even though that's not how I necessarily feel. I've come around in the middle portion of the first round. I like some of the names that we've had there. And then we've talked about it. You know, we just did a mock over on the Pistons Pulse. And when the Pistons came up at 37, the names weren't that great. So, 35, 37, 40, that range of players, you start to get a real drop off of names that kind of excite you.
Yeah, no, I think that's like the range, basically, is where that falls off, like right around where the Pistons pick. So we've talked about that before. Okay. I agree with you. I think this draft is fine. I love the top 2 guys. I like the guys I have 3 through 5. I just don't know that they're stars necessarily. If you made me say right now, or I'll ask you this question, who do you think has the most upside long-term out of VJ, Tre, or Kon?
VJ. Sorry. I was going to switch to Tre. I think VJ, because I think VJ has the most upside on both ends of the floor. Like, I think Kon can be a neutral defender, fine defender. You get away with it, team defender, whatever. I think Tre has real scoring upside. I don't know how much I believe the defense gets there. I think VJ could be a real impact on both ends of the floor. I'm not sure what the percentage chance is there, but if I had the highest of ceilings, I think I would go VJ.
I think I would say Tre is where I'm at now. I think that I can see a world where Tre just becomes a monster off-ball scorer and shooter.
Yeah.
And like, I can see a pathway to Tre averaging 25 a game more than I can see a pathway for the other 2 averaging 25 a game. I don't know that any of these outcomes are like particularly likely, maybe is how I would phrase it. Certainly if I thought they were likely, I would not have
they would be third
ranked where I would have them ranked.
They'd be in their own tier or a tier with Dylan Harper, right?
Totally. But I do think that if you made me guess one guy, I think I would say Tre is the most upside.
It's fair.
Of these guys.
Sure.
And then Ace is like a whole other conversation that I'm sure we'll have when we get down to the order later on. Okay. The range from, I don't know, 7 to 25 is kind of interesting to me. Like, I think it's solid. Sure. I think there are a lot of like upside swings that could work out, could maybe not work out. And then after that, I think it gets pretty questionable in a hurry. Sure. Once you get into the later portion of the first round, even into the second round for sure.
I think that's fair.
Okay. So let's just dive in and do this. Let's not beat around the bush. Again, shout out to the folks over at Fanspo.
Absolutely.
Just a fantastic product. Their mock draft simulator is great. It makes life so easy when we're trying to do these things. And I appreciate them immensely for creating this product.
And if you are a sicko, I found out you can do a full 2-round mock draft because that's what we did on the Pistons Pulse. We went all the way to 40. So if you're a sicko, you want to get into the second round, you absolutely can over on Fanspo.
That is very true. You can do a full 2-round mock over on Fanspo. Okay. Let's dive in. Brian Pumper asks, is the simulator even updated? It is. Yep. I checked the order before we started.
Yep.
It is updated. I am very, very pleased with the folks that have created this tool. Okay. Number 1, the Dallas Mavericks, they're going Cooper Flagg. That seems like the reality. What we're going to spend time on here is the fact that they have seemingly extended Daniel Gafford, according to Shams Charania and Mark Stein. It is somewhere between a 354 and a 360 contract is the way to put it. And my guess, as of right now, I've not confirmed this, is that it's going to be trade eligible immediately. If it's closer to 354 with like incentives, that deal should be trade eligible at that point, like immediately. So they'd be able to get flexible and find some different options to be able to do things. I think this is about right for Daniel Gafford. I think the extension number is right. It is interesting that it says that they're going to keep potentially building around the interior for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it comes out today. It's an interesting number. I think, what I also find fascinating with it is the conversations we have in those offseason previews around the likes of Mark Williams, Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren. I realize this isn't coming off his rookie number, but is this another guy that teams will look at and say, hey, this is what Daniel Gafford is getting paid, and use that as a benchmark in conversations, at least with those rookie extensions with those guys. For the Mavericks, I mean, I'm interested to see what they end up doing with all of these guys. I mean, I guess it depends on how much AD wants to play the 5. I think with Cooper Flagg there, he's going to have to, if you want those guys to play together. Not that Cooper can't moonlight at the 3 some. We've talked about the PJ Washington thing, but especially if it's trade eligible, I'm fine with this because I think this is a fine number for Daniel Gafford.
Look, I think it's a weird deal. If it was not going to be trade eligible, then I would have thought it was especially weird, to be honest with you. But I found it a bit odd, just because they have Dereck Lively already.
Yep.
This is a deal where I think Gafford still has value as a tradable player. I don't know that it's like a wildly valuable player, like wildly valuable trade asset, but I think it's like a solid trade asset for them. Like, I still think they'd probably get a first rounder for Gafford on $20 million. Gafford averaged, by the way, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 70% from the field last year. He's improved to be like a 69% free throw shooter as well. Doesn't really hemorrhage points at the line by any stretch of the imagination for a big. Limited in terms of his perimeter play, I would say, defensively. Like, not a guy that I feel great about if he gets caught on an island somewhere, but pretty good interior defender. Not an elite interior defender, but like a solid interior defender who's active and aggressive, will certainly go up and block shots, real athlete. This is just kind of what these guys get paid at the end of the day. Like, I'm fine with this number. I would guess that they could get a first round pick for Daniel Gafford still on this deal.
Yeah, so I guess the more I think about it, for Dallas, I don't love him on that number for them specifically, just because
Agree.
He's not your best center. And you also have Anthony Davis, who needs to play minutes at the 5. And it's like, how many minutes are even available to him? And at $20 million, I mean, if you're going to pay a bench guy $20 million, I feel like even with the cap going up, that needs to be your true 6th man. Like, that has to be your dude off the bench. I don't know how many bench players you can pay that much money to. And maybe, with Cooper being on a rookie deal and whatever, like, I don't know how much it'll strap them, him being on the books for 20, but him being on 20 million on a different team where he's more impactful, more minutes, stuff like that. I think in a vacuum, that's where I think this is a fine number for Daniel Gafford.
Yeah. So what it means long-term for Dallas, we will see. I don't really think this, I mean, it just really is like, hey, let's get the certainty of either having Daniel Gafford or having Dereck Lively at center. And then we have obviously Anthony Davis to be able to play some minutes there too. Cooper Flagg will probably play a combo of the 3 and the 4 long-term. If they're playing him at the 2, there have been mistakes made, in my opinion. What we like so much about Cooper Flagg is the overall versatility of his game. He's the second best prospect that I've evaluated in the 10 years that I've been doing this. I've written a whole thing about that, ranking all of my prospects. I am a huge fan of Cooper Flagg. He's just as complete a prospect as I've evaluated since I've been doing this. Commands the game on both ends of the court. Incredible competitor. great mismatch threat, offensively, defensively, great offense or great rotational defender, great havoc defender, scrambles around constantly, helps his teammates around. Just a fantastic defender across the board. Really, really just a great player.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about two-way players, and Cooper Flagg has that, knocked down shots at a good rate this year, which was a question coming into the season, and showed all of the other talent and intangibles and skills that we knew he already had. So no-brainer.
Someone asked, will Sean Sweeney be a big miss for Dallas? It seems like Sean Sweeney is departing. My opinion is yes, because from what I understand, he was a big orchestrator of their like peel switch defense that they kind of utilized last year on their run to the finals. I really enjoyed the way that he coached defense for the Dallas Mavericks. So I would say he is a loss. We'll see what they do to replace him.
Yeah, listen, I will be honest, like there's not a whole lot of assistant coaches I have thoughts on, but Sweeney was also in Detroit at one time before he went to Dallas, and that was a loss whenever he left here. So I would say yes.
Okay. Number 2, you're up. Dylan Harper, I would imagine, is your pick.
Yep. Dylan Harper going to the San Antonio Spurs. We've talked about it, like the fit stuff, the Aaron Fox, Steph Castle. I get it. I understand it. This is just a tier break. Would not be willing to go anywhere else with this selection. On-ball guy, has the build, the body, the physical play to attack, break down. We'll see how the fit works and how they hash all of that usage out. But it's like all of that is not an issue for me in terms of, am I going to take Dylan Harper or not? Is it something they have to figure out? Absolutely. But it's not going to deter me from taking him at number 2.
Yeah, at the end of the day, for me, it's that if I'm the Spurs, I'm not expecting to be up here again. Like,
sure,
I have Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox already. I'm expecting Wemby to be a top 5 player in the league next year. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox is like an all-star point guard. I'm not expecting to be picking at number 2 again anytime soon. So the reality is that I need to take the highest swing that I can here, I think. If there's one that exists, and to me, Dylan Harper is a real upside swing. I think Harper is the one that makes the most sense. I think that his game, like someone in the comments just said, like Harper reminds astute people of RJ Barrett, like nowhere even remotely close. I understand that they're both left-handed and downhill drivers, but the complexity with which Harper can get to the lane and then maneuver around bodies, Barrett is a guy that like was a wrecking ball and I have to just go shoulder into somebody and that's it. Dylan Harper is a tactician. He is a guy that can counter, and he's like setting guys up constantly for different counters. And he is trying to find, okay, I'm going to go hezzy with my right hand, crossover to the left, between the legs to the right, take one dribble, backspin to set the guy up. Like he's just doing so much more to set up defenders than anything that RJ Barrett ever did. He's a better finisher. He's better touch around the rim than Barrett ever did. The pull-up game, like real question, I think for Dylan Harper, that's where you and I probably have, that will separate him from being a starting caliber guard toward being an all NBA guard. Sure. In somewhere in the middle, will be the pull-up game, but Harper's an elite level talent. He should go number 2 overall.
Agreed.
Okay. Number 3 is where this thing starts.
Yep.
I still think a trade makes the most sense for them.
I agree.
I don't know that they will do it. I don't like this comes like this is me like understanding, what I think they could want or don't want. I think that they will look to trade down, and we are going to go down one spot to Charlotte at number 4.
Okay.
And we will do Philly down to 4, 3 for 4 with 33, 2 additional second round picks attached from Charlotte to the 76ers. So basically 33 2 second-round picks, and then the 76ers will send Andre Drummond and his deal to Charlotte
to get off some money.
To get off the money. And this lets Charlotte get the player that they want at number 3.
Okay.
So I just want to confirm. Yeah, we are set there. So this is Charlotte. Charlotte gets VJ Edgecombe.
Yep.
This feels like the right move. You get off the Drummond money, which gives you more cap space to be able to play with Quentin Grimes, with Yabusele, everything like that. Not cap space, but financial flexibility. You get 3 additional second-round picks to slide down 1 spot. You are still in control of the board. Like, you're still in control of, if someone comes up and wants to give you another offer to try and jump Utah, Washington, whoever for Ace Bailey, you have that ability if you want to. You can play that game if you want to. I still think this makes the most sense, is for Philly to drop down 1 and to take somebody there, or to trade down again, whatever you want to do.
No, it makes sense. I like this for the Hornets with VJ Edgecombe. I think it's a really good spot. We've been kind of penciling this in and talk about his fit between LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller going back a long ways. At the very least, I think he's going to be an impactful, disruptive defender. And, you know, as long as the shooting holds, an off-ball shot maker that's not going to be forced into anything more than that early in his career, which I think will be important for his growth.
Okay. Now, can I give you a pitch on somebody at number 4?
Sure.
So the reason that I asked the question on who has the most upside between Kon, Tre, and VJ, I just personally do not think that, I find it unlikely that Daryl Morey is going to like enjoy the stylings of Ace Bailey, frankly.
Okay.
Maybe he takes them, maybe he surprises us. I'm totally willing to be surprised by that. But I just would be a little bit surprised if given what I know about how Ace comes up in models, analytic models, I'd be fairly stunned.
Okay.
If Daryl Morey was in Ace guy.
Okay.
But we do know that Daryl Morey, the other thing about him is that he loves upside swings. If he's going to do it, he's going to take an upside swing on somebody. What if their guy is Tre Johnson?
Okay.
We just said like that's the upside swing, right? Of those
Sure.
3. Isn't that does that make sense to you? I guess is what I'm asking.
The process that you just went through makes sense. I don't love the fit of those 3 guards all together defensively. Offensively, it could be a lot of fun. And
all shooting. Like, you
yeah.
have a ton of shooters.
Yep. I'm cool with it. Like, I was not going to take Ace Bailey here for Philly. If anything, I was going to take Tre or Kon here for Philly, or like have Washington trade up or Brooklyn trade up or something like that for Ace.
Yeah. So I would take Kon if I was them. Honestly, like if it was me, I would take Kon. But I have this sneaking suspicion. I don't know what it is, that I think that Daryl will appreciate Tre maybe a little bit more than what we think.
Let's do it. I love it. Like, this is a little bit different than what we've done. I think it'll have a trickle effect that will be interesting for the rest of the draft. And I mean, here's the thing. I say I don't love it, but then when you really look at this roster, it's like there's room for a shooting guard like that, even as good as Jared McCain is. You know, like there are minutes for all 3 of those guys, unquestionably. It's just like, what kind of defense are you going to get from the perimeter in the backcourt? But I mean, like you said, Maxey, McCain, and Tre Johnson, that's a heck of a scoring trio on the perimeter. Let's do it.
So I just want to make a point here. So why not Ace, right? I can't imagine. I just know what the analytics models look like. They are not positive for Ace Bailey, just straight up. He's somewhere in like the first round, but he's nowhere near close, right? He's just not there at the end of the day. I'm all for trading down again. Like, I think that makes sense too, but I think that they do want to go get a guy here.
Yeah. So that's my thing is like, the trade down thing seems a little 2K, and it's like, okay, like if I would trade down if then I knew what I could use those assets to make another trade for. You know what I mean? Like if I trade back with Brooklyn and I pick up some draft capital there, and then I take all of this draft capital that I've used to make, and like that just gets very, very complex for a mock draft. I do think Brooklyn and Washington would be interesting to make a move here. But to your point, you're starting to trade out of the tier of players we've talked about. And is that what they want to do when you have a chance? Like you got lucky in the lottery. Are you really just going to trade out of that tier then, as opposed to taking a swing?
And the other thing on Ace is that he is a real project. Like, it's going to take time for him to be anywhere near a winning basketball player. And they need to win next year. Like, they need to be a better basketball team next year. They can't really have Ace Bailey like shoot them out of games. But do you know what Nick Nurse can do? He can develop a bunch of off-ball actions where Tre Johnson can make quick decisions and either fire from three or drive to the rim and make like a jump pass, like to a cutter or whatever. Like, I think that I don't know. I've been like thinking about this a little bit more, and I wonder if Tre Johnson might be a guy that they really like. It's been very quiet. I for what it's worth, like I buy that they also like VJ, but I don't know. The more I've thought about it, the more I think Tre Johnson makes sense with Philly.
Cool.
Okay. Number 5 now is Utah. So people saw earlier today that I had Jeremiah Fears here. My guess is that they are going to like Fears because Danny Ainge and, to some extent, Austin Ainge now being the GM as well, or the president of ops, has a real tendency to like these smaller guards. If you look through his draft history, that are tough, that are athletic, that can get to the spot. He has a high upside. Like, I wouldn't deny that. Like, I would absolutely say that he has high upside. Someone says like Utah trading back. I think if they want Fears, they can't trade back, is what I'd say. And I don't know that they want Fears 100%, but I think that they probably need to take Fears at 5 if they want him.
So real quick with that, I mean, Brooklyn is obviously a name there. And like, I don't know that Phoenix is in the market for this, but they're higher chance, I think, than Houston was to take Jeremiah Fears. And so I do think that KD trade changed this discussion a little bit. Again, I think Phoenix should be in the market for a big and true wings and anything that's not a shooting guard. But if you told me they were willing to take a point guard, I wouldn't be shocked. And so, and that would not have been the case with Houston. I don't think they would have been, nobody was mocking a point guard to them. So I'm with you. I mean, they would have to be careful how far they traded back at least.
Yeah. I mean, like, what would you say to people saying that like he has a history of drafting big wings like Tatum and Brown? I mean, I'm just not going to lie to you. Like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the worst thing people said about Jaylen Brown is that he was too smart. You know what I mean? Like, that was a whole narrative beforehand. Tatum's intel was as clean as it could possibly be. I mean, Ace Bailey is, again, like, I want to be clear. Ace Bailey's, a very, like, a good kid that his teammates really like and everything like that. But there are some things that he's going to have to work through in terms of like, focus and continuing to become like a just more mature human being and adult, right? Like these aren't bad things. He's an 18-year-old, he's a teenager, but like, I'm just telling you from talking to teams, it's not as clean as that. It's nowhere near as clean as those guys at the end of the day. And yeah, of course, the Jaylen Brown, like being a nitpick thing, too smart. Like, of course, it was so stupid at the time. It was insane. Yeah, I'm gonna take Fears here. I think this is maybe they're doing an amazing job of smoke screening everybody. Again, people are saying Fears isn't even better than Collier. I think they're about the same tier for me, if I'm being honest. This is not not a pick I would make. I have Fears like at 19 on my board. I'm not a huge fan. I'm just saying that, like, that's, if I had to guess one way right now, and I'm I think they have done an open process to this point. I think I would say Fears right now.
Love it. This is not where I expected this to go. So this is fun.
Yeah. I mean, look, I mocked it earlier today.
Sure.
I don't love it. I don't love it. I want to be clear to Jazz fans. Like, I don't like it, but yeah, that's where it is. Okay. Number 6 now. You're up.
I'm going to take Ace here. I do think that this is a spot that makes sense for him. I think this is a team that would want to take this upside swing. I think, Philly fans would be really interested, or excuse me, Washington fans would be really excited about him falling to them, even with the stuff that has gone on around all of this. Whenever they fell out of the lottery, I think there was a lot of disappointment, no Cooper, no Dylan, not out of the lottery, but fell in the lottery, and we're not even at 3 to make the decision between Ace and VJ and these upside names and all of that. So I think this is a good spot for him in regards to that. And we talked about it recently. I think we had him trading up on our last one. I think Jordan Poole being there to take shots, and so the Ace isn't the primary option right away. And the idea of Chris Middleton potentially still being on the roster and being a mentor makes a lot of sense. So Ace Bailey right here to the Wizards.
I like this as well. Someone brought up the idea Ace plays the same position as Koulibaly. I completely disagree with that, actually. I think that they are completely compatible playing together. I think that you could play them both as like the 2-3 or 3-4, depending on what you're doing. You could put another wing next to them. Ace is a really good rebounder. I would actually say like that's a skill set that I really like of Ace Bailey's, is that he is somebody who goes up and like goes to grab the ball on the defensive end. Yeah, I like this fit a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense for Washington as well. It wouldn't stun me if this has been like the orchestrated goal the whole way was
Sure.
to get him to Washington, to be honest. It felt like here's the thing I would say. Like, if you go back through Will Dawkins' like history as like a person in a front office, right? If I remember correctly, he was there when Chet got drafted by Oklahoma City too. I'll have to check that for sure. But, like Chet, like really, kind of hid himself pre-draft a little bit and like, made it so he orchestrated his way to Oklahoma City. Alex Sarr, it felt like last year, they kind of like orchestrated their way to Washington, right? Wouldn't stun me if Ace Bailey is kind of doing the same thing this year with Washington.
Sure.
Trying to get down there. I think that this is probably the right fit. Someone asked, like, does he start immediately? I don't know. Like, depends on what the mindset is coming into camp. Depends on how he looks in training camp. Like, this is a whole project, and this is a big swing for the fences that could go one way or could go another way, right? I broke down Ace Bailey a little bit more in depth over on Hoops Tonight with Jason Timp. This isn't really like the landing spot to be able to like break down Ace Bailey. Certainly we will break down Ace Bailey's game in some real detail whenever he gets picked. But on Wednesday night, we will be live on Wednesday night. Absolutely prepare and go watch that on Wednesday. But I'm really, really intrigued to see where the landing spot is that Omar Cooper and folks seem to think they have for Ace.
Yes, that is the storyline that I am most interested early in the draft.
Okay. Before we get to New Orleans, which I think should actually be like a fairly easy pick here, we're going to shout out the sponsor of today's show. Shout out to Trade Coffee. Whether you're gearing up for back-to-back meetings, shuttling kids back and forth to activities, or tackling an endless to-do list, your morning routine sets the tone for it all. That's why it should start with the perfect cup of coffee crafted just for you. That's going to be Trade Coffee. Trade is the #1 U.S. coffee destination, bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Trade's experts have taste tested thousands of coffees to curate over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or you know your favorites, they'll hand pick the perfect coffee for you, even cold brew for those hot summer days. You take their quiz, and in under a minute, they're going to match you with your perfect coffee. If that first bag isn't quite right, Trade will replace it for free until they nail it. Trade's prices are on par with grocery store brands, but the quality is next level. Plus, you are supporting local roasters. It's a win-win for everybody involved. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off with a 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/game. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/game for 50% off your 1-month trial. Drinktrade.com/game. Okay. Bryce, we are up now next.
Number 7.
At number 7, this is just like kind of an easy one for me. Maybe they do something silly and pass on Kon Knueppel, but if you are planning to continue to build around Zion Williamson, I mean, having him and Trey Murphy next to Zion is like the no-brainer of no-brainers to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kon's the pick no matter what your path is. I mean, we've talked about this. As long as your path involves Trey Murphy III and ideally for me, Herb Jones as well, like where does Kon not fit into either one of those paths, right? He's the best player on my board. He's in a tier that I would not break to go to another player in this situation. So there's not really a scenario where I wouldn't go Kon Knueppel here for the Pelicans.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is like one thing that other evaluators bring up to me, you know, other scouts like within the league is that Troy Weaver is somebody that like values like AAU production and guys that like played really well on the AAU circuit. Kon was a monster on the AAU circuit, like was an absolute stud. So, you know, it kind of ticks weirdly. Like he doesn't fit the idea of what like a typical Troy Weaver, you know, Joe Dumars player is, but it kind of works. You know, Dougie brings up the fact that Zion is a serious accusation. I would try to trade him ASAP. I don't disagree that I would try to trade Zion, but you know, we literally have Joe Dumars going on the record saying that, you know, they're going to build around Zion moving forward. So that's just kind of what we have to go off of here. I would be surprised, I think, if Jeremiah Fears fell below this spot, if he was to get to 7 for what it's worth. But yeah, with Fears being off at 5, we're going to go Kon here at 7.
Love it.
Okay. Number 8, you're up with the Brooklyn Nets. This is like, to me, probably the spot that the Nets didn't want to be in, if you make a guess.
I would agree. Like, I don't love where I'm at right now. If I didn't already have 3 other first-round picks, I would call Phoenix and be like, hey, do you want to jump Toronto maybe just to make sure you get a big that you might want here? But I just don't know how that would make sense because like you aren't going to ask for number 29 this year. Like you don't need another first round pick. So if I'm going to stay, I will go Kasparas here. I'll go Kasparas Jakucionis here. They need some on-ball creation. We've talked about his ability to play both on and off the ball. So if they, you know, end up finding a way to attack that in other means over the next couple of years, you can move Kasparas off the ball and play him in a role either way. You can, eventually if he needs to be a third guard, which I know isn't ideal at the number 7 pick, but that's where I would go here. I will take Kasparas and see if he can help us with some of that primary creation that team is currently lacking.
I agree. I like this pick for them. It's probably the route that I would go. Also, he is a guy that, to me at least, doesn't have to play on the ball, which means you can go draft another point guard later in the draft if somebody falls. And we think that point guards are probably going to fall in this draft if you made me guess. So at 19, 26, 27, there will probably be point guards available. I like the fact that Jakucionis can play both on and off the ball.
Love it.
Okay. Number 9. This is Toronto. I think if you made me bet, if Maluach gets here to 9 or 10, there will be like something of a bidding war happening. Do you want to trade Maluach to Atlanta or Chicago?
Atlanta.
Okay. Atlanta makes it a little bit easier because we can just do like 13 and 22 in like a second or something. So let's just do Atlanta going up to get Maluach. So let's do 13, 22 for 9. And like, we'll throw in a second somewhere. Also throw in an additional second round pick from ATL to Toronto. So basically 9 for 13, 22 and an additional second.
Yep.
And Atlanta gets to move up and takes Maluach at 9.
Yep. I think he's such a nice fit there.
Completely agree. Home run, like rim runner and ball screens for Trae Young, big body rim protector to play with Trae Young in drop coverage defense. Like, this makes sense to me across the board for Atlanta. And for Toronto, you get more assets. Like, it feels like Toronto more than anything is trying to gear up to like try and go get your like a next star, another star, right? Go get more assets, go get more swings, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not
put
this?
Put as much together as you can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I like it.
Like, I've been like a little bit lower on Maluach. I have him at like 12 on my board, but I also think that if I was Atlanta, I would have Maluach probably at like 5 or 6. Sure. Honestly, I would have him quite high because you have Trae Young who can feed him lobs, which is what he does well. You can have the real defender on the interior. I don't think he's like, people think Maluach is going to shoot. I don't really buy that. I see him as like a rim runner, scorer at the rim, defender on the interior. I love the idea of like the combination of Maluach and Onyeka Okongwu long term. I think that's like a nice little center duo long term. Yeah, I think this is a really, really good, solid decision here.
Sure.
Okay. Maluach at 9. You're up at 10 with the biggest wild card and guess of the lottery here in the Phoenix Suns because they just got the pick.
Who knows where they go? I mean, I would be interested in a big here. So like, I think Sorber, Beringer are in play for sure. Derik Queen. For me, I would really come down to Carter Bryant or Colin Murray-Boyles. Essentially, as long as you don't draft a shooting guard, I think it makes sense. If they wanted to like really buy into a defensive identity in some way, which I don't think there are, maybe they go with CMB because I think that would be a great start to that. So I'm just going to go with Carter Bryant. He's the number 1 player on my board right now. I don't know if this is what they will do, and maybe you can talk me into somebody else. Yeah.
Bryce.
What?
We can't take another wing here in Phoenix. Their entire roster is wings.
I don't think Carter Bryant's a wing. I think he's got to be a 4.
Oh, I think he's going to be like a 3-4, like hybrid.
Yeah, I think they can use those.
Can they?
I mean,
yeah, I guess.
like what Dylan Brooks. I mean, we made the argument the other night that it was a bunch of twos.
Carter's bigger. It works. I don't know. I've gotten the impression they're looking like bigger. I like
Okay.
Murray-Boyles if those are the two you're picking between.
Okay,
for what it's worth.
let's do. I wasn't sure like what they would feel like. Here's another. I mean, I guess they did take Ryan Dunn last year. You're adding a similar idea of player in terms of defender that can't shoot, at least right now. I love the idea of Murray-Boyles. I just didn't think that I didn't know if they would value his defense in the same way, but he makes more sense because of the potential to play, as a big and fit, because he's more of a.
So someone says here that Carter Bryant is bigger than Carter Bryant's bigger than Colin Murray-Boyles. He's taller. He's not bigger. He doesn't play bigger.
He doesn't play bigger.
Murray-Boyles is physical. He has a lower center of gravity. He is stronger. He's more powerful. Like Murray-Boyles is going to be able to like steal some minutes at center. Like Carter Bryant's a wing. Like there's just like a totally different. Like I get it that like based on the measurements of like height and wingspan, that Carter Bryant is taller than Murray-Boyles. But
they
like,
have this. They have the same standing reach.
Yeah,
and
that works.
I mean, I can't imagine Murray-Boyles wasn't, significantly. Yeah, Murray-Boyles is 25 pounds heavier than Carter Bryant. And I mean, it shows up on film. You wouldn't have to tell me that he was 25 pounds. You can tell by the way he plays with his chest. So, yeah. and for like, I think Murray-Boyles is definitely a better defensive player than Carter Bryant. So,
yeah,
cool.
I would agree with that too. Let's do Murray-Boyles here,
okay.
And then we can take Carter Bryant at 11.
Okay,
with
Blazers.
Portland, right? Like this makes sense. They've looked for these versatile defenders here for a while. Get another one next to Denny, next to Tamani Kamara. Guy that just makes a ton of sense for this team. Can shoot it. They need another guy who can shoot it. This gives them like another, year to see what they have in Shaden and Scoot as well. I wouldn't be stunned for what it's worth, by the way. Anybody from like 9 to honestly like 12 or so. I think any of these teams could really trade down. If you were making me guess, like I think from what I know, they're like all threats to trade down.
Sure, makes sense.
So I like Carter Bryant here. I think that this is what works for Chauncey Billups. It's what works for the way that they've been building, everything like that. This tracks to me.
I mean, him, Denny, and Tumani is really fun. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. You're up at number 12 now, with the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to stay. I think I've mocked this before. I'm going to take Derik Queen here at 12 for Chicago. I think Vooch is on an expiring, Jalen Smith coming off the injury. I just think if they went different big, I guess, like, I don't know, is Beringer or Sorber, like Sorber, I guess kind of tracks as well. I don't know if like, would they value the Beringer archetype? I just think that I could see them valuing the skill set that Queen has on the offensive end. So that's what I feel like I will go here with 12.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what the Bulls do, because like I've just heard everything all over the map with them, to be honest. Like I've heard trade ups, I've heard trade downs, I've gotten like Essengue, I've gotten Derik Queen, I've gotten Beringer, I've gotten I've gotten so many different players for them. I've gotten that they really like Egor. Like truly for them,
please.
I have gotten so many different avenues. Like if it was any other front office, I'd be saying, yeah, they've done like a really good job of making people think that, they could go a variety of different ways. Like they've done a really, really good job of this. It's just like, I don't know how intentional it is with the Bulls is the issue.
Sure.
Like that's my question. So yeah, we can go Queen. I'm for it. Like
cool.
he's one of the names I've heard. Like I think that they are completely open. I think they're definitely a team that could move up and try and get Maluach. Like that's one thing
Sure.
that tracks for me.
Yeah.
I think they're a team that if their guy isn't on the board, they could move down as well. Like I think that there have been reports the entire time that Brooklyn's been looking for a second lottery pick. I think that the Chicago Bulls, like it'd make total sense for them to move
Sure. That makes
12 sense. For like 1926. Honestly, like if you want to do 19, 26, and 27, like, that's fine to move all the way down because they just need swings. I feel like if you're the Bulls, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm good with Derik Queen here though, if you want to do that.
Cool.
Okay. 13 is now the Raptors from that prior trade down with Atlanta because Atlanta moved up to get Maluach. So a few names that I've gotten here. I've gotten some Essengue buzz with Toronto. I've gotten some Danny Wolf buzz actually because he really ticks their like dribble, pass, shoot, big stuff that they like. I've also gotten some Beringer buzz with Atlanta or with Toronto. I've gotten a few different. I've gotten a lot of names with Toronto, is what I would say.
Interesting.
So I think that where I'm gonna go here, I think I'm gonna go with Beringer here.
Okay.
Is like their project D center. So essentially, let's look at this, right? Atlanta moves up, they get Maluach, guy that makes a ton of sense, right? Toronto slides down, they get Beringer, who's more of a project than Maluach, but honestly, I think is not that far off in terms of like long-term prospects. I have them right next to each other on my board. I really, really like Beringer's long-term upside. I think athletically, he's just like in a totally different group than a lot of these guys in this class. He moves drastically better than like so many of these dudes. His ability to like actually slide his feet, to run up and down the court, like he's a different level athlete. He catches just about everything. I think this would be like a home run if Toronto ends up with Beringer at 13, an additional pick in 22 and like a second rounder. And for Atlanta, it makes sense if they would want Maluach more than Beringer because they probably, they need the big a little bit more, I would argue. Like they don't like Onyeka is worse than Pirtle, right?
Yep.
Beringer can learn behind Pirtle. They can then make the decision on if they want to stay with Pirtle long term. This is a win for me for Toronto.
Yeah. No, I like this one. As soon as they came up and I looked at the board, that was the name I pinpointed as well.
Yeah. Okay. Number 14. You are up here with San Antonio.
So I mean, I think I'm just going to go Cedric Coward here. Like is the name that makes sense to me. Like just adding a wing, career 39% 3-point shooter, 38% at Eastern Washington 2 years ago. He only got the 6 games at Washington State. The free throw percentage, rebounds. Like we've talked about Cedric Coward a lot on the wing in terms of just like his length, his athleticism, all of that stuff. I think this makes sense to add. Like you added Dylan Harper, like the backcourt. You don't want to add any more into that. We've kind of talked about like, I think backup center is interesting here. Do you want to do that at 14? Is that the kind of player you draft at 14 that is just going to be Wemby's backup? Maybe. But maybe you want to go with something like a little more, hey, this guy could actually start for us with Wemby, with Dylan Harper, with De'Aaron Fox. I think Coward is the guy on the board right now that makes the most sense for that.
Thing for me is just he's a big time shooter.
Yeah.
He's a big time shooter. Can play like I think Coward long term might be able to like steal some minutes at the 4. Sure. Honestly, once he gets stronger, he's not there yet.
Fills out his frame.
Yeah, he's listed at 206 on the screen. He's like 215 or so right now. He's going to get up, I think, to like 225 at some point pretty easily. The thing that they need is shooting. Like they just desperately need shooting, and he is like I think everybody would agree. He is like a real shooter. He is definitely a shooter. And somebody asked in the comments, has Coward worked out for the Spurs? I believe he has. Yes. So like, yes, like this is a genuine shooter, in my opinion, that makes a lot of sense for them. I love this pick, Bryce.
Yeah. Again, like as I start to look ahead, I'm like, okay, I got the Spurs 14. Who's on the board? Cedric Coward. This is a no brainer. Like I pretty much stopped thinking about it as soon as I saw his name, to be honest.
Okay. I'm up at number 15 now. This is also kind of an easy pick for me. I think Sorber makes a ton of sense for them.
Okay.
They are going to get very expensive here starting next offseason.
This is the
Not
Thunder.
this offseason.
The Thunder.
The Thunder are up at 15.
For audio only.
To me, Sorber makes a ton of sense because he is a developmental center who might take a little bit of time coming off the foot injury. Good kid. Very multi-skilled in the way that Oklahoma City looks, right? Like extremely, extremely multi-talented. Can pass a little bit, protects the rim, would be a very, very good fit, I think, in lineups with Chet, would be a very, very good fit, I think, in lineups without Chet because of his ability to like play in dribble handoffs, much like Hartenstein does. My read is that they're probably not going to be able to keep Hartenstein past this year. So I really like this pick here for Oklahoma City. I think it makes a lot of sense. I will also say, I wrote this earlier, but like I've gotten some Liam McNeely stuff with Oklahoma City too.
Interesting.
For what it's worth.
Nice.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me if they go that direction either, but Sorber at 15 is where I'm going to go. They need a center long-term. I think that you can pretty easily make a case for Sorber being that guy.
Like it.
Okay. You're up at 16 with Memphis.
Yeah. So like Nate Clifford is an interesting name.
Yeah.
Essengue and Wolf. Is Danny Wolf like, I guess, is he a Memphis type player? Like, I know we always talk about him being a Thunder type player. I'm trying to, and then like that big man room is, I mean, with Jaren and Zach Edey, Brandon Clark, but Edey and Clark are, you know, Clark has been injured. Edey is going to be injured to start the year. I'm not as big of an Essengue guy. I kind of like Nate Clifford here. Trying to decide roster-wise if that makes sense for them.
Could use another wing for sure.
Another wing. He's the top player on my board right now. I will go Nate Clifford unless you think that there's somebody else that makes more sense for them.
I don't have a problem with that. That works.
I like Nate Clifford. I think, you know, you watch the film, he played a lot on the ball at Colorado State. That's not going to be what he does in the NBA, but it's that secondary, second side ability to attack off the bounce and pass and do those type of things. And then I trust the shooting in terms of like the catch and shoot numbers were good enough for me. And he has some interesting off-screen three-point shooting and those type of things. Like, I think he shoots it well enough that I'm comfortable with what he's going to be asked to do off the ball. And then I think he's going to be a good defender where he has even more energy on that end when he's not playing as the primary creator for his team.
Yeah, I'm into it. Nate Clifford. All right. 17 now. This is actually like a fairly difficult one here. Minnesota Timberwolves are up at 17. I actually don't totally know what to do here now. Part of me just wants to go Liam.
Sure.
And just give them the shooter.
Shooting. Yeah.
Part of me thinks Will Riley makes sense here, actually, if this is the way the board falls. I think Sorber is probably the guy that, like, if I was Minnesota, I might try and move up using 31 and 17 to go get Sorber if I could. Or even like trying to move up in whatever way I could. I'm intrigued by kind of a number of these players. I also wonder if like Essengue is just like an interesting player for them.
Sam, I
because
swear it was my first thought was, if you would have said, Bryce, what do you think? Essengue would have been the first name I said.
So here's the thing about Minnesota, right? you can make the case that they have a number of these like upside Project D players, right? In Leonard Miller and Josh Minot and, things like that. Here's the other case. They drafted them because they like those type of players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're interested in these kinds of players, in my opinion. So I don't know. I'm going to go Essengue here.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of the player, but this is like right around where I have him.
Yeah.
I certainly don't have him at 9. I have him like right at 17 or so on my board. Bigger frame, small, like skinny frame for sure. Very high center of gravity. Yeah, I mean, has some length, can certainly get to the rim and be able to finish. The thing I would just tell people, like the German league is not particularly strong, right? I think that he takes advantage often of guys that are just not as athletic as he is. And I am not quite as high on the player. I would not take Essengue here if I was Minnesota, but they have a real track record of taking guys like this. I can see it. I can see the fit. Minnesota, like I said, like I think that there are certain guys that they would really like. I would also say, like, I've heard some like Walter Clayton buzz here for what it's worth. Like this is probably the top of like the Walter Clayton range too.
Interesting.
I like that as well. Like I really like Walter Clayton. But yeah, Essengue just ticks the boxes that they tend to look for, I feel like.
Sure.
So, okay. You are up now, Bryce.
18 Washington Wizards, right?
You are up with 18 with the Wizards, yes.
I'm going to take a player that you just mentioned. You mentioned OKC might be interested in said player, and so I will send him to the Wizards. I've done this before in a previous mock. Adding shooting with Liam McNeely just makes a lot of sense. We've kind of talked about the shooting numbers with McNeely, and when you look pre and post ankle injury, you look at the role he was asked to do at Connecticut, and it's just the way the roster shook out for Connecticut. He was asked to do a little bit more on ball than what I think he was ready for, especially as a freshman. I've watched him going back. You mentioned like valuing high school AAU stuff. I've watched Liam going back to, the summer going into his junior year at Montverde. And it's just like, I always thought this is a big time off ball player that understands relocation, that can really shoot, that will attack closeouts, that moves ball. He will set a weak side screen. He'll take charges defensively. I think he'll be a positional defender. Are there some point of attack, like foot quickness concerns? Sure. But I'll buy into the toughness, the court mapping, all of that on the defensive end. And I do think he's a big time shooter. I know some people question it because of the numbers. I don't question it.
Man, this would be my ideal Danny Wolf spot. Just
I
him
thought
and Sarr next to each other. I really like that.
I thought about Wolf. If I didn't take McNeely here, it would have been Wolf. So.
Okay, so Liam's off the board. Number 19, the Brooklyn Nets.
Who have taken Kasparas Jakucionis, just as a reminder for everybody.
They have taken Jakucionis. So look, there are just a number of guards on the board here, right? Like Demin, Jase, honestly, like Will Riley's a name, Nolan Traore, Walter Clayton. There's just a lot of lead guards that you can, like, I think, float to the next spot. I just wonder if they'll do that, honestly. Sure. Like, I just kind of think that they might take Egor.
Yeah. I wondered.
And be happy.
Yeah.
If I was them, I'd probably take Danny Wolf if I was them, because he's something that like they just don't have, and it's just like totally different, right? But I think I'm gonna go Jaeger here. Again, this is not what I would do, but big backcourt, passer, playmaker. There's just a lot of traits there that I think that they could look for in an upside swing.
Sure. I mean, I think this, I think what you said in terms of like waiting until 26 and 20, is it 26 and 27? Yeah. To take one of these primary creators makes sense. I could understand them waiting. I could also just saying like, hey, we think this guy's really talented. He specifically may not end up at 26, 27. So we'll take him here if we have him in a tier above Traore and, you know, all of, you know, the other names. So,
yeah, I think that's right. Okay. Number 20, you are up.
Okay, so I mean, I have to start here because he's the last player in my like. Danny Wolf makes sense for Miami. Like, is that a fit that we could see or no?
So I wouldn't be surprised if they look front court again, to be honest, because like after Kalel Ware and my God, Bam Adebayo, my brain just totally froze. It's been a long day already. I can actually see that they don't like. I don't think they have a lot of depth there. Really at all. Like I think that it makes sense for them to look at one of Danny Wolf or Asa Newell.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So like that's and Wolf, in my opinion, offers some versatility with who you can play him with. I think Bam does as well. Obviously, Khalil Ware being able to space the floor does that as well. Like I'm kind of into a 3 big group of those guys. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Danny Wolf here for the Miami Heat. I like adding him to that trio, or to make that trio with Bam and Khalil Ware.
I'm into it. I love it. Danny Wolf at 20.
Asa Newell would be interesting to me as well. I have Danny Wolf higher. So
for some reason, so I actually like the fit of Danny Wolf better because I think that they would get creative in how they'd utilize him.
Sure.
But I also can kind of see Asa being like more of a Heat guy for some reason.
No,
to me.
When you say Heat culture, I definitely would have a picture of Asa Newell before a picture of Danny Wolf. So maybe in regards to that might be the more likely actual pick. But
yeah, but we're good with Danny at 20.
Yes.
Okay, number 21, I am up with the Jazz. They have taken Jeremiah Fears. I think I'm just good actually taking Asa here, to be honest.
Sure.
You know, they're looking to move John Collins, it feels like. You know, I think Asa is actually like kind of an interesting, like energy, athletic swing at this pick because he is somebody who just plays with a ton of energy. He is a real athlete. Like he is something that they don't really have in the front court right now is like a big who is athletic and like can actually move his feet and can do some things. Like this actually works for me.
Yeah, Asa Newell's really interesting. I like Asa Newell, like how hard he plays. I like the defense. I think there's potential offense, and if that really hits, he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, like what worries me with Asa a little bit is like the skill level overall. Like I don't think he processes it super quickly. I don't think that he passes it super well. And the jumper is going to be a question early on. I think he has a chance to shoot it at some point though. Like it's going to be a developable skill to me.
Sure. I agree.
So, okay. We're going to go Asa Newell 21. 22. You're up with the Toronto Raptors who traded for this pick earlier.
So like the name that stands out to me and just like what I think they value is Will Riley. Like I feel like they have a lot of that, but like you said earlier, in some ways that tells you what they value. And especially if they eventually consolidate any of those guys, having another one in the pipeline like Will Riley makes sense. So I think I'm gonna go Will Riley here.
Yeah, Will Riley's the guy that I came around to late as he got better throughout the season. I didn't really love him, to be honest with you, early in the year. I was really worried about the lack of the streaky shooting, I would say. And then additionally, just like the pure lack of strength. But the thing that I really learned about Will Riley throughout the year is just the total fearlessness that he plays with. Like, I really love the straight lines that he takes to the rim as a driver. Like, he's aggressive. He goes into dudes' bodies. Like, if he puts on 15 to 20 more pounds, he actually might be like a real dude. Sure. I think. I have Will at like 22 or 23 on my board. I think if I was adjusting this again, I might have him a spot or two. Like, I might have him in the top 20, honestly. I've really come around on Will Riley a little bit.
Love it. No, he's a really interesting player. Like, the offensive skill set is really interesting. And if, like you say, he puts on the strength, even if it's just functional strength, he's going to be able to impact a lot better.
Yep. Okay. I'm up here at 23 with the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay. So we took Kon Knueppel earlier.
Yep.
I think if I'm the Pelicans, like there's like a fairly obvious pick for me here. I would definitely do Jase.
Okay.
They don't really have any answers in the backcourt. Again, I really like shooting for them. If you're going to continue to build around Zion in the way that makes sense. Go get a whole bunch of shooters, right? Jase is a great shooter. I think he can play with the ball in his hands a little bit. A lot of creative actions where you can have him be like a screener for Zion. You can have him come off of all the like Zoom or Chicago actions that, Michigan State ran him off of. I think that this makes a ton of sense. In their backcourt, like they don't have any answers long term. DeJounte has the Achilles injury. CJ's an expiring deal right now. I like the upside of Jase like a little bit more than Walter Clayton, but Walter Clayton would also make sense to me here too. I'm going to go Jase, but like either or tracks for me.
Sure. I was going to ask if Clayton Jr. was a option here, but you just laid it out. So works for me.
Yeah. Okay. 24. You're up with Oklahoma City, who, obviously in just like a massive roster crunch here.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Hugo Gonzalez with this one. I just think this would be interesting. We talk about like what they look for in terms of like playing hard and physical and those type of things. I think Hugo has the potential to do what the type of things they would want. Now, does he dribble pass shoot the way they want? I think he does a couple of those things. I'm not sure I want to be all in on the shooting just yet, but at 24, and who knows if they even make both of these picks, like that's obviously part of the equation here. But I think if they're picking here and this is the board, I think this would be an interesting selection for the Thunder.
Yeah. I think this makes sense. Could be a stash option as well.
True. Yeah.
I think that his deal in Spain is a little bit aggressive, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, this makes sense to me. Hugo, look, I don't think it's like a certainty he stays overseas, but like if Oklahoma City drafted him, I would imagine that there'd be a conversation in that regard at the very least.
Sure.
Okay. 25 is a very easy pick for me. This is Orlando, and I'm just taking another shooter for them in Walter Clayton.
Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, like I get it that they just traded for Desmond Bane. Give me more shooting. They can't just because they traded for Desmond Bane does not mean their job is done in terms of going to get shooters.
Well, they also traded out Cole Anthony, who was coming off the bench doing, like playing minutes. So there's a easy slot there for Walter Clayton Jr.
Completely agree. Walter Clayton is like an easy home run pick for them. I love this pick for them. Like this is for, I would imagine that they would see this as a home run if he was to fall to 25. I just don't. It'll be interesting to see if he gets there. I would say his range feels to me like it's basically like 17 to, 29 or so. Like, I don't know if he gets 30 necessarily, but somewhere in that ballpark. And, he ends up at 25 with Orlando. He's from Florida. Like it would make a total, like he's actually from there. Like he can just go to Florida. Like he's from the state of Florida. It'd make total sense.
Yep. I'm in.
Okay. 26. You're up now. The Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, so we've gone pretty small so far for the Nets with Kasparas. And I mean, Jaeger's not small. And obviously some people think he's going to play wing. I'm going to go Rasheed Fleming. I know I'm higher on Rasheed Fleming than you are. This would probably be the highest of possible range for you. This is right in range for me. I think if Fleming shoots it the way we saw this last year at St. Joe's, that gets him on the floor. And then if he can just be disruptive, his length, like those type of things, I think some of the quick processing and decision-making and court mapping has to continue to grow. But I think at 26, when you're taking 4 first-round picks, I'm willing to bet on this type of wingspan athleticism paired with the ability to space the floor.
Agree. I think this is fine for Rasheed. It's probably not what I would do, but I have no beef with this pick, honestly. We're at 26. Like, it's fine to take him here. At 27, I am going to go.
This is the Nets' second of back-to-back picks.
Thank you, Bryce. That's very nice of you to do what I forgot to do here.
I got to earn my pay somehow.
I'm going to go Drake Powell here.
Love it.
Nets.
Yes.
Let's just go defense. Like they drafted smaller early on. Let's go get another big wing that can defend and can do some things here in Drake Powell. Look, I mean, somebody asked here, the Nets picking 4 times. I think the Nets would probably prefer to not pick 4 times if you made me bet. It's just like kind of hard to be able to find the spots where the trade ups are. I do wonder if number 12 with Chicago is kind of the one that tracks for me. But if I'm Chicago and I want like a big, I want somebody who can like really play with the ball. Maybe like Danny Wolf falls to them at 19 and they'd be happy with that. And then they get 26 and 27 and they're the ones that have 3 first-round picks, right? But it's tricky. It's a big bet that all of the bigs fall if you're Chicago, in my opinion. But you'd have assets to be able to go up and jump again. Like you could go 12. Maybe if you did 12 for 19, 26, and 27, or 12 for 26 and 3 second-round picks or something, you could do, 2 of those second-round picks and 19 for 16 or something. Or like you could take, honestly, like maybe you could do something where like you take John Concher. That's a funny thing. John Concher's deal from Memphis, because like they might be trying to open up space for a Jaren Jackson
Jr.
deal, right? So something like that tracks for me too. But I like Drake Powell here as a great defender. If we're keeping all 4 of the picks, they have the ability to roster 4 rookies. I don't know if it's a great idea, but they can do it at least.
Love it.
Okay. You're up at 28 with the Boston Celtics.
Okay, so I think a big makes sense. Maxim Raynaud, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Let me ask you real quick. Do you think Noah Pinda and what he does, like, do you think they would use him and prioritize him? Or is the lack of shooting from a guy who's playing the 4, you think that doesn't track very well?
Yeah. I would say it tracks. I just find it hard to believe that this team, where their scheme needs a spacing big, would pass on both Raynaud and Kalkbrenner at this spot.
I agree. I wanted to throw it out because I do like Pinda, and he's definitely in this range, and I just didn't want to like not at least bring him up. Listen, you would take Kalkbrenner here. I understand people would as well. I will take Maxim Raynaud. I'm a touch higher on Raynaud than Kalkbrenner. It's not a ton. It's a few spots. It's the same tier. I mean, I guess if you think or whatever that they would take Kalkbrenner over Raynaud, we can go there. But if I was picking for Boston, I think it's one of those 2 guys. I would lean Raynaud.
Yeah, I'm fine with Raynaud here.
Okay.
Totally good with that. Raynaud is very skilled big who can dribble, pass, and shoot. Like very, very gifted on offense. It's just like we don't know what the defense is going to be. And that's why I like Kalkbrenner a little bit more. Sure. I feel like I have a good sense of what the defense is.
Sure. That's fair.
Okay, so we went Murray-Boyles at 10. This to me, I mean, God, if Kalkbrenner is there at 29 for Phoenix, like you just have to take him to me.
Yeah.
A guy that makes an immense amount of sense given the fact that they desperately need a center right now. I get that maybe you're thinking like you want a point guard and like, God, we have Traore like desperately falling here, but I like Kalkbrenner a ton here.
No, that makes sense.
I think that he makes a ton of sense for them. They need a big here. Like they just have nothing in that front court right now beyond Oso, it feels like, in Nick Richards, but I think Richards is a backup for sure.
No, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think Traore would make sense as well, but I think Kalkbrenner playing the center spot makes sense.
Okay, you're up at 30.
What's funny is the mock I did earlier today, Traore fell as well. I'm going to stop that here. I'm going to take Traore here and let him come in and play backup point guard for the Clippers. And so he is the highest rated player on my board. There's a couple other guys that would be interesting, but I will take Nolan Traore.
Yeah, look, I think that Traore has gotten kind of a bum rap because he started the year so badly in France. He was actually quite good by the end of the year in France.
Yep.
Like he was really, really impactful, I thought. look, I still don't know totally how he scores effectively in the NBA, but he is a solid defender who can pass the ball and who I think like has at least a workable shot.
Sure.
I do like Traore. Like if you get into the 20s at all, like I think Traore makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think he is going to be a backup point guard in the NBA. Like I feel pretty comfortable with that. It's just not the upside we thought whenever we, went into the year and he was one of the big 5 names that started this thing 9 months ago.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. That's where we're at. We're done with the first round. That's it.
Love it.
Cooper Flagg 1, Dylan Harper 2, VJ Edgecombe 3, traded to Charlotte. The Sixers received number 4, number 33, and 2 additional seconds. The Hornets receive Edgecombe at 3 plus Andre Drummond. The Sixers take Tre Johnson at 4. The Jazz take Jeremiah Fears at 5, Ace Bailey at 6 to Washington, Kon Knueppel at 7 to New Orleans, Kasparas at 8 to the Brooklyn Nets. Common Maluach gets traded to the Atlanta Hawks at number 9. The Raptors received 13, 22, and an additional second round pick. Number 10, Colin Murray-Boyles. Number 11, Carter Bryant. 10, Murray-Boyles to Phoenix. 11, Carter Bryant to Portland. 12, Derik Queen to Chicago. 13, Joan Beringer to Toronto in that trade from before with Atlanta. Cedric Coward 14 to the Spurs. Oklahoma City 15 takes Thomas Sorber. 16, Nate Clifford goes to Memphis. 17, Minnesota takes Noa Essengue. 18, Liam McNeely to Washington. 19, Egor Demin to Brooklyn. 20, Danny Wolf to Miami. 21, Asa Newell to Utah. 22, Will Riley to the Raptors, again in that trade with Atlanta. 23, Jase Richardson to New Orleans. 24, Hugo Gonzalez to Oklahoma City. 25, Walter Clayton to Orlando. 26, Rasheed Fleming to Brooklyn. 27, Drake Powell to Brooklyn. 28, Maxim Raynaud to Boston. 29, Ryan Kalkbrenner to Phoenix. 30, Nolan Traore to the Clippers. One thing I will say, I think that if like where we may have made a couple of mistakes here is I think both Oklahoma City at 24 and these Brooklyn picks at 26, 27, if they haven't made any moves prior, I think those are like very real.
Sure.
Sacramento offers us four second rounders. Like, let's just take the second rounders and get off this pick.
Sure.
Kind of deal.
Yeah. Yep.
Like something like that I can see.
Sacramento, again, like Detroit is a team we always talk. I don't know, like this will be Trajan's second draft. Like we'll see how aggressive he is with where they're at, but I do think there's probably a few teams there that would make a lot of sense and could have changed who those picks were potentially had those teams moved up.
Yeah, like Sacramento is a team that I think makes a ton of sense. I mean, like James brings up Boston. Like I can see Boston trading out of the first round very easily if they, like the idea of it depends on who's available, honestly. Like I think that teams could very easily decide to move out. Again, though, if you're in the first round and you're sliding back to the second, you really got to be careful where you're dropping to.
Charlotte
has really got to be careful.
Charlotte has 2 second rounders right at the top. If a team wanted to saw that value in that, getting off the guaranteed first round money or whatever, and Charlotte wanted to get back in on a first round pick, only having number 4 right now, maybe something they would look to do.
Yeah. Someone asked as well, what do you think 31 is worth when you factor in contract flexibility? I mean, honestly, if I'm Minnesota, I think Minnesota would probably be one of the more likely teams to use 31. If you were making me guess, I always think of like the top pick in the second round whenever there's a day value there or a day in between there is like a real trade asset because you control the board again and you can have negotiations overnight and everything. But Minnesota could really use a guy on like $1 million deal at 31 for the next 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah,
or
sure.
$2 million deal. I can't imagine that they would trade out. Like I would think that they'd probably trade down. Right. And like, and we back, like brings us up. Like I was thinking the exact same thing as when he said it, like, we said the same thing with the Raptors last year, and the Raptors just took Mobo, if I remember correctly. Like, very plausible that Minnesota just stays there, I think, in picks
Sure.
their top guy, whoever it is.
I mean, it is such a fascinating situation because all of these picks happen so fast, right? And your board's changing and adjusting, and then you have to make a decision. And then this all of a sudden is a almost 21 hour. Yeah, 21 hours to, okay, let's reevaluate. Oh, wait a second. Noah Pinda's on the board at 31. Okay, maybe we didn't think he was going to be there. Maybe we have some time to go watch some film, and hell no, we're not trading out. We're going to take that guy, or some other team does that and decides we will give you this haul to go up to. I'm not saying like a first round pick, but you know what I mean, like multiple seconds to move up to get there. So it is just a fascinating spot because the amount of time all of a sudden that everybody has to make decisions and evaluate the situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, like there are a number of guys I think that could make sense for Minnesota at 31 too. Like Noah Penda that you just brought up, I think makes total sense to me there. The other guys that make sense here, like I think both Ben Suraf and Cam Jones make sense as like offensive firepower off the bench for them, honestly. Sure. Yeah. Like I think they're hoping that, Rob Dillingham is a guy that can do that too. Maybe not off the bench. Maybe they're hoping he can be the starter, but yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. And then, I brought this up last night. Luke asked in the comments, like, what's the latest Sion James could go? Honestly, I think he goes in the top 40 is where I'm at. I do. I think he goes in the top 40 after the way we just watched these playoffs, man. Like, I feel like teams are going to value him. If you were making me predict one surprise first round pick among like the 5-year, players in college, I think right now I would guess Sion James.
Interesting.
Like if you maybe just pick one guy, right?
Sure.
Like that I had to take a guess on, it would not blow my mind if it was Sion James.
He can really defend.
He can really defend. And Derek Brown's right. Bryce Simon is the man. Could not agree more. He is the best. Bryce, we're going to get out of here in under an hour and a half in a mock draft show. That was the goal.
Crushed it.
We still have to record more because we have to record off-season previews. But Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. A lot of the guys at the end of the first, top of the second, I have video breakdowns for free over on the Substack, as well as some free agent potential acquisitions for your team, trade candidates, all of that. I think the Pinda breakdown actually dropped today. I don't know. Like I scheduled these out because it's a busy week for me as wheat harvest has started out in Kansas. Sam, I sent you the video the other day of me driving the grain cart with the combine dumping the grain into the grain cart. So that is my life whenever I'm not podcasting this week. So those are pre-scheduled. There's a whole bunch of them. There's like 15 of those. The Pistons Pulse podcast just did like I said, all the way to 40 mock drafts. Otherwise, right here, Game Theory podcast with the Sam Vecenie. Please come join us on.
When did you turn into like a Transylvanian vampire?
I don't know.
Sam Vecenie.
I've talked way too much. I had way too many phone calls while I was on the combine today, and then an hour and a half of the Pistons Pulse, an hour and a half here. Who knows how many mistakes I'm going to make in the offseason previews of the Pacers and Thunder. But come join us on Wednesday and Thursday where there'll be no mistakes as we evaluate every pick of the 2025 NBA draft.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. We will be back. We will have off-season previews tomorrow. We have 2 of them going up tomorrow. It'll be Oklahoma City and Indiana. The Oklahoma City one probably going to be about 20 minutes if you made me bet.
I think they'll be okay with it. They're celebrating their championship. They don't have a whole lot of time. Truly
the shortest one. And then the Indiana one will just be a bit of a bummer, unfortunately. Yeah. So we're going to have to talk through their mechanics with the Halliburton thing. So yeah. I am intrigued to see all of that. Okay. And then look, like I will tell the people if trades happen tomorrow night, like tomorrow during the day or tomorrow night or whatever, Andrew Claudio and I GMAC, our fearless producer, will go live like at night. It will be later. It will be like 11, PM Eastern. It will be late, but we will go live if like there are moves to break down. If not, we'll just talk about it earlier. But yeah, that's where we're at. Okay. Whew. Good mock draft show. Until next time, we'll talk soon.